Greetings, YouTube. This is your good buddy, Fragments of Memory, also known as the Armchair Philosopher. And I'm here again to discuss a video that I just saw called Common Sense, question mark, question mark, question mark, by a good buddy of mine known as Jason STL. Please describe. That is JASENSTL. And the gentleman has some really good views and some good points. I would disagree with you about the religion thing only because I do consider myself a religious man, and I find that religion has helped me and given me some perspective on things in my own life. However, I can get with you on the education issue. Many a time, there are people that have multiple degrees, multiple avenues of education, and can still be foolish and can't function in the real world. Well, the educational system is flawed. There's a book I was reading called If You Want to Be Happy and Rich, Don't Go to School. It was by Robert Kiyosaki. You might know him as the guy that wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Well, anyway, Mr. Kiyosaki goes on to talk about how our educational system instructs us to not look bad by being wrong. So our educational system eschews being wrong. So when we mess up, we don't go back and say, hey, why did I make a mistake on that? Our educational system says, we'll reward you when you're right, but we will destroy you when you're wrong. So we're always constantly looking to be right as opposed to, hey, this is a learning experience. In fact, he would go on to say that he made an attempt to make as many mistakes as possible so he can learn a lot. And I do believe that this whole life thing is trial and error. Trial and error is the way to go. Now, our culture has us believing, let's avoid the things that are going to hurt us. Let's avoid the things that are going to cause us pain. So we avoid those things, yet we don't learn anything because we were avoiding it. You also talk about how many don't think outside of the box. Many, with all their degrees and their information, can't deal with the box that they've been placed in or can't think outside of it. And I do believe that education has given us that box. Parents have as well. And there's one mantra that was always chanted to me as a little kid, from middle school, elementary to middle school to high school, was get good grades so you can go to a good college, so you can get an education, so you can get a good job, so you won't have to flip burgers at McDonald's. And that was something that was told to me in one form or another throughout school. And like you, I don't downplay those that decide to get degrees. However, I did find it interesting that you said separate yourself from what you're learning. Just interesting. Maybe that's something we can rap about, we can discuss, we can build upon for future videos and conversations. But yeah, separate yourself from that which you are learning. That's just interesting. But anyway, this system teaches us the only people that matter are the ones that have degrees. And as long as you have a degree, you're entitled to a good job. In fact, they throw out that statistic. And I read this from somewhere, I forget where I read this. I even think that John Stossel talked about it on 2020, where he talked about how there's a statistic of students who have people who have college degrees or college educated make $1 million more in in their lifetime than someone who only has a high school education. Well, according to Stossel on the 2020, he was saying how that statistic might actually be wrong, that statistic has been fudged. And for everyone that has a degree, there are statistics that show not everyone, the ones that got the degree, for the ones that got the degree, there's some that don't have the degree. There are many that went to school and dropped out or flunked out or whatever the case might be. Now, you also mentioned something about how you have, we're going to college. Now here you were in high school, you jumped through all the hoops of high school and you graduated. But now you got to jump through the hoops of college and you pay for it. And if you don't have the money or scholarships or a rich daddy or a rich uncle or a rich whomever in your life or a sponsor of some sort, you're going to pay. You're either going to pay out of pocket and put yourself through with hard work, or you're going to go and take out a loan and go into debt. And then after you go through all of that, and let's say you do make it, you still got to pay off the debt. And of course, they whack interest and interest upon interest, and you got to pay that. And of course, well, your new job will supply it and fund it. Well, you're not guaranteed a job. And I think school does people, children and adults alike, telling them that a degree is a guarantee. Yes, education is good. Yes, I want my citizenry to be somewhat educated. I want my doctor to have went through medical school. I want my lawyer to have went through law school. I want my engineer to go through engineering school. And those fields, I think, should be done. However, that isn't for everybody. And it's a lie it's a lie and a deception to try to say this education system is for everybody. Everyone doesn't learn the same. There are even apprenticeships for people. Back in the day, if you wanted to learn something like a trade or an occupation, you went to a trade school, or you learned from someone who knew it already. Like if I want to be a mechanic, I go learn at the feet of a mechanic. If I want to be a woodsman or a woodcutter or a blacksmith or a stonemason, I went to a stonemason and learned and studied under that stonemason. And then when it became my time to actually do something, I did it. So I think our educational system does us a disservice. Now, don't get me wrong. You're always going to have a box that you're going to have to think outside of, even if the education didn't supply, because you do have your biases, you do have your slants. No matter what, you as a human being are living out your experiences, your views, your prejudices, your loves, your lusts, your hates. And that's how you perceive the world. And because you perceive the world a certain way, you're going to act accordingly. And sometimes you may have to defy the very things that have defined you. However, there are a lot of shoulds in life, unfortunately. Unfortunately, education has created a lot of shoulds. And to a certain extent, I think religion has. But but I agree with you that we don't have common sense anymore. We don't just look at a situation and go, let me go do something about it. Instead, there's all these other voices speaking now because of some type of education that we have. And again, I don't downplay getting educated, because you can get educated outside of the classroom. And sometimes you don't have to go through a painful experience to receive it. However, I think that experience and observation are great allies. I do want to thank you for your video. As always, your videos do spur thought and give way to conversation, maybe even connecting some dots. I don't know. Well, Mr. STL, you take care, and to the rest of YouTube, you also take care, and peace. Later.